Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. I hear a lot of people talking about wanting to retire early, and a barrier seems to be health insurance. When we want to retire early, it's very easy for people to think, I'm going to need to eat, so I need some way to pay for that. I'm going to need to be able to get somewhere, so I need a way to pay for transportation. I need a way to pay for housing. I need a way to pay for every aspect of retiring and not having income from a job where we have to sell our life 1 hour at a time. And if this is your first time to my channel, the purpose of my content is to help the average individual realize that you can reach financial freedom in 10 years or less and make work completely optional, even if you're not starting from the best position. And it's a little frustrating if I'm saying you can make work optional within 10 years, and then a lot of people continue to work or find a job that they can put in minimum effort at where they still get benefits. Healthcare is that thing that is stopping people from being free. And even if you have to work somehow a part-time job for benefits, if that's a thing, I think most companies want you full-time to give you benefits, and you have to sell your life 1 hour at a time in order to get healthcare, you're not free. And that's the whole point of financial freedom, is being free. So I'm going to cover a couple of the options on how you can get healthcare while you don't get it from an employer. And then I'm going to cover why it shouldn't be the barrier that stops you from retiring early. Some people aren't even going to retire late because of healthcare. Before we retire, most of us have a job, and that's where our healthcare comes from. Some of us have a spouse who works, and the healthcare comes from that. Or they're in the military, and the healthcare comes from that. But somehow our healthcare coverage in the United States is coming from an employer paying for most of the premium. When that's you, you're still paying for healthcare. It's still an expense. Sometimes what you see coming out of your check is zero because your premiums are covered 100% by the employer. Meaning that employer, when they created your position or the org chart for that company, instead of allocating this much money towards paying people, they took an amount and set it aside for the healthcare cost. So your pay is reduced, kind of like a retirement account. If somebody says, I contribute for the match, great, get the match. It's free money for your retirement account. But if you're choosing between two companies and one has a retirement account and one doesn't, find out what their pay is. There's a good chance the one without a retirement account is paying you more money than the one that is matching you for retirement. Same thing with healthcare. The employer is paying a portion of what it costs to have you as an employee towards your healthcare. While we're working, if your employer has 50 or more employees, they are required to offer COBRA. So one of the first options is to use COBRA to extend your healthcare insurance when you quit your job. And a lot of people think, because we've talked to HR from a few years ago, that when you quit your job, and yes, not just being fired, if you quit your job, you just say, I'm done, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice, I'm retiring, I'm not going to another company, you qualify for COBRA. Quitting is an event that qualifies you for COBRA. If you're fired for cause, like gross negligence or theft or something, there are ways where you might not qualify for COBRA, but if you just choose to quit, you still qualify for COBRA. Most people are going to get hit with sticker shock because if your premium has been zero, that means your employer is covering 100% of the premium. And when you go on COBRA, now you are going to be responsible for that amount. And I am going to give some numbers as an example. If your premium is $50, $100, $150 a month, that means you've been paying probably 10% and your employer is paying 90% of the cost of that healthcare. So you could switch to COBRA, and there is a drawback to switching to COBRA because when you quit working at your job, and this is why you want to do your research before you commit to doing anything, quitting your job is an event that would let you enroll in a healthcare plan that isn't from your employer. Something like the American Care Act or Obamacare that they call it, or to private insurance. I mean, you've got a few different options to enroll, but a lot of times open enrollment is a certain time like November or December, end of the year, when you can enroll, unless you have a qualifying event. Sometimes when you start a job with a company, they can enroll you in their healthcare the next first of the month after you start, or first day. But if you quit having healthcare and then you want back on it, you have to enroll at a certain open enrollment time. Getting fired is a qualifying event to get healthcare outside of the open enrollment time. Quitting your job is a qualifying event. If you extended your insurance from your employer with COBRA and then voluntarily stop using COBRA, that is not a qualifying event that lets you pick up healthcare outside of the open enrollment period. So make sure you've done your research before you choose to extend with Cobra, because it could cause you to have several months where you don't have coverage, which, according to Murphy, is when all of the things are going to go wrong with you. For years, when you quit your job, you had 60 days to opt into choosing to continue Cobra. And I think the rules were HR had 60 days to contact you or something like that. But that was the window. Since the pandemic hit, we have 60 days to enroll in Cobra from the date the COVID emergency ends, which, although we've got away with mask mandates and other things, there's still a COVID emergency going. So check with your company's HR on how long the timeline is to be able to enroll in Cobra. Remember, you're going to have sticker shock because it's 100% of the cost of the premium. So if you're going to use the ACA, America's Care Act, or Obamacare, a lot of people think it's income dependent. So many people heard in the beginning, you had to make $47,000 or less as a single person and blah, blah, blah money or less as a family. And then it was per person. And there was all these criteria, and it changes every year on how much that amount of money is. But that's to get the tax credits to lower the cost of that insurance. You can make more money and qualify for those insurance plans. If you make more money, you're just not going to get the tax credits. That makes that a really affordable way to get insurance. So don't think that income is going to be a barrier. For private insurance, if you've been contributing to an HSA, like a retirement account specifically for healthcare, you can put money in there. It has 3 tax benefits. While you're working, you can contribute to an HSA if your company has it. It's pre-tax money like a 401k or a retirement plan. It can grow without being taxed. That gain is not taxed. And if you take withdrawals for qualifying expenses, it's not taxed. So it's got 3 different versions of a tax benefit. The really cool thing with an HSA is when you stop working, Cobra, the expense of Cobra is a qualifying expense. So you can use HSA funds to cover Cobra. You can actually use HSA funds to cover the cost of Medicare payments if you're 65. So that's actually one of the good uses for it, is to cover the cost of premiums. The really cool thing when it comes to the ACA program and that income dependency, especially for investors, which I'm hoping that is who is watching my channel, people who are investing to reach financial freedom. Hopefully we've been clear that you can't save your way to financial freedom. You learn how to save so you can invest and put that money to work to reach financial freedom. But here's an example. Last year, I ran a truck driving school, income 6 figures. If I wanted to use ACA, it would be based off that income, and I would have the highest premium cost there could be. But last year, I also had 6 figures in income from rental properties. So had I retired early last year with rental income, so no W-2 income, and now I have rental income, it's based on net rental income. So, and I am very transparent on my channel. I share the numbers, so don't sue me, bro. I want people to understand exactly how this works, what the numbers are, how much you get per property, how much the down payments were, what the closing costs were, my interest rates. Like, I try to share numbers as transparently as possible. My profit in 2021, according to my taxes, and so after principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, so all of the money taken out, what was left was $128,000 in profit. But because of the way the tax system works, the government wants there to be investors to create housing. They want you to build, they want you to rehab, they want you to create rentals, because not everybody wants to own a house. A lot of people want to, but a lot of people can't afford the maintenance, the upkeep, don't want to be so stationary. There's a lot of reasons why people don't want to buy a house. So the government wants to incentivize people to buy properties. It's almost like Congress has got several hundred people in there that make the laws that own rental properties. So weird. What are the odds that they would make laws that benefit people who own rental properties? We get to use write-offs and depreciation on that income. And with $128,000 of profit, like money in my account after all expenses and filling reserve accounts, this was my net rental income. I lost $8,900 that I'm carrying forward to next year in rental income. So if I wanted to use the ACA, the American Cares Act, to get healthcare insurance, and I didn't have a W-2 because I was retiring early and I was just going off of my rental income, my net rental income is negative. So as a person who retires early with rental income, one of the benefits is you're going to probably qualify as long as you're, still have depreciation left. You were buying and you have the ability to get write-offs. You're probably going to have one of the best expense amounts every month for healthcare. I have also had people talk about the reason they want to be an expat is because when you're in the United States, it's about $600 a month per person to have insurance. It's closer to $900 now after the last 2 years. So $900 a month per person to have healthcare in the United States, and somewhere between $60 and $100 to have healthcare outside the United States. So you have a lot of expats in like Medellin, Colombia, or Pattaya, Thailand, or Koh Tao, where I'm going to end up in Thailand. But healthcare shouldn't be the driving factor for putting you there. For me, it's going to be crystal clear water, scuba diving, warm temperatures, and people still like Americans there. But your healthcare expense is an expense. So you have several different options. You can extend COBRA, and it has a timeline on how long it would last. So check with your HR department and how your company's set up. COVID caused that to change. The Obamacare packages, the private, you could use short-term. The problem with short-term insurances is they usually only cover major expenses. They won't usually handle anything that's pre-existing. So if you have a pre-existing condition, the ACA is much better. They won't let you enroll if you are pregnant. So pre-existing conditions can be a problem there. You also have faith-based groups that create, like your employer gets a discount on insurance because it's signing up a bunch of people. Well, there are faith-based groups that sign up a bunch of people and get those discounts. So there's a bunch of ways to get it, but that's not what matters, or what you're going to pay for it and how you get it. That's just a Google search. You literally go to your Google search bar, and instead of typing in one rental at a time, you're going to type in, how do I get healthcare now that I don't have a job and I'm not 65 yet? Here's the part I want you to understand. It's an expense. My friend Beth pointed this out perfectly. It's a line item in the expense column. So if you've been self-employed, or if you want to retire early, you're just looking at it like, I need to eat. I want $1,000 a month for food on a small budget because I don't ever want to have to worry about what I'm going to eat. I want to drive somewhere. So I have a duplex that I actually call the vehicle duplex. When I purchased it, it cash flowed somewhere between $800 and $900. Now it's over $1,400 a month in cash flow from the vehicle duplex. So it's entirely possible that I just bank that money up and then go buy a vehicle, or I might go buy a vehicle and use that money to bank the payments and the insurance and the upkeep and the registration. So the entire cost of that vehicle would come from the vehicle duplex. So you need a healthcare duplex, or fourplex, or 2 duplexes. The size of your family dictates how much it's going to cost per person. Age is a factor. The older we get, the more health insurance is going to cost until you hit 65 and you qualify for Medicare. And then when you get close to 65, you want to do the research on that, because if you don't apply for Medicare in a certain amount of time, you get a penalty for not applying by that time. Topic for another video, and I think probably a different audience. So there's logistics, how you get the insurance. But the main thing is, and this is the same as the LLC, it's why I referenced it at the beginning of this video. Don't let you thinking you have to have an LLC be the reason why you don't invest. Don't let you thinking you need healthcare insurance be the reason you don't pull the trigger on retiring early. You have a freedom number. That freedom number includes housing, transportation, food, entertainment, healthcare, guns, travel, a couple things like that. Figuring out what that number is. Pad it for safety. For me, I think it would take $30,000 to $40,000 a year coming in, because I house hack and I generally drive paid off cars because I use the money from the vehicle duplex. So it doesn't take me much to live, right? But if I had a spouse, tried that, didn't stick. If I had kids that still lived with me, I would just say, instead of a duplex, I probably need 2, or the fourplex. An asset for every expense, and then pad it to retire early. BiggerPockets had David Green had a video up a while ago saying, don't retire on cash flow. And it wasn't clickbaity. It was just, it makes you think, is that really what he's saying? But really what he said was, if you need $30,000 a year to retire and you get $30,000 a year in cash flow, you don't retire. But if you need $30,000 a year in cash flow to retire and you have $90,000 a year in cash flow, now it's an option. That I totally agree with that. So it takes me 30 to 40 to retire somewhat comfortably. Cash flow this year, if nothing changes and I don't find my next property that I'm looking for, I'm set to make about $136,000. I need to do the math on that, because the binder strategy just kicked in on 3 more properties. And so the cash flow is it's like just under 14,000 a month. So 14 times 12, whatever that is. So I think it's so weird. You should buy some rental properties. It pays off. It's exponential and hard to keep track of those numbers. So that is 17 minutes that will be taken out and put into another video if I ever stop being lazy, because I say I'm going to do that at the beginning of every live stream when I cover a topic. If this is the first time to my channel, my live streams basically go until the questions stop coming in. I don't expect you to sit here for 3 hours with me, but if you have good questions or you want to hear good questions, these live streams do tend to last about 3 hours. And while the topic at the beginning was healthcare, that is not what the questions need to be about. My content is designed to help you. I don't give relationship advice. I don't give stock advice. I don't give parenting advice. I think my kids turned out great, but that was absolutely an accident. They're just amazing people, and it wasn't me doing that. But I do give advice on buy and hold real estate, house hacking, self-managing, cash flow, sourcing deals, systems to make it work like a business, systems to make it easy so you want to add more properties. And so the questions can be anything in that realm. You can actually literally ask me anything. I've answered every question that's come up so far. Words are hard.
I hope you enjoyed this clip from one of my long live streams. I do my live streams every Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific, and they last as long as the questions do. You can find the entire video here. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.